All right, we are live. How you been lately, Source Code?
Busy.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Needed to
kind of. I'm sorry,
access
no,
to
you
the
finish.
Twitch. Yeah, I'm actually working on a little game for a game jam.
Hmm. What's the theme?
It's Tiny World is the theme.
Mm.
I wanted to make a VR horror game. It's not a VR jam, but I just wanted to make a VR game.
Mm.
WebXR. So it's not. It's probably not going to be played by a lot of people, but
Yeah,
that's not the point.
that reminds me. The very first time I made a VR game, I submitted it to a non-VR specific jam, and I think I got no plays.
Yeah.
So maybe not the best place to submit my first ever VR game, but it did eventually
Yeah.
become a WebXR game. So there's that.
And my first WebXR game was for JS13K.
Oh, really?
Which one was it?
It was the first time they had WebXR in the. It was a very bad game. I didn't have VR headset back then, so I used the Google Cardboard to test things. And that's basically what the game was focused on, and you needed to move around on a maze. It was very bad, but it was a start. It got me into A-frame, and through that gem, I found out about WebXR.
I think there's a 3JS 2 week hackathon something game that there's it's just finishing now this weekend, I think, or maybe it finished yesterday.
Hmm.
It was not an
No.
ish.
Uh,
They might
I
have been
I
running
didn't
it
I
on the
just
Discord.
saw headlines of it. I didn't check and see if there was a WebXR. I think it was unrestricted. Just pretty much make whatever you do, and turn it in by this weekend.
Have to keep an eye out for that. Yeah, we got a cool presentation today. I guess I don't know how much he's specifically gotten, but Nori is going to talk about the game he made for Viverse.
Cool.
Oh yeah, let me switch over to the chat window. While people are filing in, I'm just gonna quickly mute myself and finish breakfast before we get into stuff.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. How's it going, Nori? Oops, forgot I was muted. How's it going, Nori?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Nice, nice.
I heard you, but if you were muted, that's weird.
Wait, you did?
Yeah, I think.
Because it's like I muted myself on hubs and also turned my audio interface volume all the way down. So Mysterious.
Weird.
But yeah, like I was saying. Oh, Nordy, do you have slides or anything, or are you just gonna kind of talk
No,
about
no
the
slides.
game? Okay.
Keep it verbal brief. I'm actually in VR again
Mm.
because it's been I don't attend all of these meetings because I don't always have the time.
Mm.
But most of the time it's like way easier on just desktop. But like sometimes it feels like we need to do more VR stuff
Yeah.
ourselves as well.
It's like
It's
if I.
something even with development, I sometimes notice that I sometimes go a long period without actually testing on the device all that much.
Yeah, it's because you just kind of default to the lowest friction iteration method, I guess.
Yeah.
But you are right that it does
Yeah.
feel right to attend these in VR.
Yeah, definitely. That's yeah. Because the weird thing is, like, I was attending different weekly meetings for language exchange in VR chat, and there it's like there were even more people also just on desktop, but there I consistently went VR. That just felt right. But for some reason, well, I think it also depends. Like, if you want to look up things or cross-reference things, it can be multitasking is still easier if it's just a tab in your browser. Whereas on the headset, I find it quite difficult to. You would assume that multitasking is quite doable in VR, but the UX isn't there, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Give me just a couple minutes to finish off this bagel with my mic off, and then we can get started.
No problem. Although there was one weird thing when I joined initially in VR, I was sort of stuck under the ground. I never have that happened before in hubs, but after I rejoined, it was okay.
No, I have not seen that.
The last time I was in on VR, it seemed like they'd fixed a few things that were like before there was always that trouble with the chat where it would hiccup or something like this if you were in the headset. But uh, I think that's been fixed, and maybe a few other things, obviously.
If
I
you
was
could
just
join in
looking.
VR, are you using a Quest?
Not right now. I was before. When it's probably the last
Yeah,
time
but
I was
it's,
in here, actually.
I always use my Quest for these kind of things, but I was wondering if the Valve Index would work too.
I've joined once on a Valve Index in the most scuffed way. Nope. Because that was then with like the patch set for getting WebXR on the Linux joining working.
Oh,
And then I actually attended one of these meetings in that way. It was workable, but I think on the Windows, the Valve Index works pretty fine for WebXR. I think the bigger issue is just the somewhat lackluster implementation in Chrome. I mean, like controller haptics aren't still not implemented as far as I know, and just the consistent problem with the setup. Like, it's always a gamble whether it works for people.
yeah.
And that's one thing I wish that like PCVR would be more like targeting PCVR with WebXR should be more viable. I mean, technically there's no limit for it, but it's just like yeah.
No. It's weird. If I do WebXR, I mostly use my Quest. I rarely use the Index for WebXR. I
Yeah,
did some
well,
testing, but I also did some. I was trying out that UE VR tool
Mm-hmm.
to see some games that to try them non VR games in VR. Actually, I wanted to see if I can get a port of PT to work in VR.
Hmm.
but that keeps crashing on me. So
Oh yeah, no. Imagine I was asking, have you had any hitches when chat messages have been coming in?
Oh yeah, for sure. So
Ah,
if
dang.
that's been resolved, we're not on that version.
Okay.
Um,
I was hopeful that maybe a browser change would just resolve that on
yeah,
its own, but I
and
guess
there's
not.
another thing about the chat. When I summon the Quest browser window, only then do the
Yeah.
chat messages actually appear
Yeah,
in
it's
VR.
because I
So
think it's the like chat to bubble conversion process uses HTML to canvas, which is using the like browser um, request animation frame or something, and then
uh,
it's not running until you bring up the like flat page again, and it
true,
actually
true.
starts that
Yeah.
loop. Ouch. Sorry for
Mm.
my
Well, couldn't it be done in like an off-screen worker, the off-screen canvas?
You would think. I think someone's even mentioned something to that effect on the Hub's repo at some point about like making that specific thing like an off-screen canvas type deal. But I think the larger issue is like, why do we need HTML to canvas to show the chat
Yeah,
stuff? Is it just a matter of like getting it to layout automatically? So you just have to worry about like projecting a image as opposed to like doing actual text rendering, maybe? That's the only thing I can think of for why it would be set up like that. Okay, but anyhow, obviously my bagel is done, so whenever you're ready, Nori, you can give us the little rundown.
the little rundown. Yeah. Okay, so for you guys who don't know me, my name is Nouri Huisman, freelance software developer. Do a lot with VR, XR, and well, mostly WebXR. And recently, I worked with Fiverr, which is a platform for WebXR worlds, scenes, experiences, games, you name it. Um, and I worked with them to create a little game, a tower defense game called Thorn. And it launched like the 20th of May. And my goal for the project was to create, well, something that sort of is really VR first. Because despite being a WebXR platform and they are onboarding a lot of creators to create worlds and experiences, a lot of them focus on well, visual prowess, and they can sometimes run on XR devices, but sometimes not. It's like the focus is on the visuals, whereas I was like, well, I like the vision of Fiverr because they basically offer a platform. Well, Hubs is also nice as a platform, but if you look at Fiverr, they have like an angle that is somewhat, at least to me, was somewhat reminiscent of what VR chat or other social VR platforms tries to do. So there's a bit of a social system in it where you can have an account, you can have like friends, you can chat with your friends, you can visit worlds together. So when I sort of thought about what do I want to create in this context, um, hello, um, I I was thinking like, how can I create a game that is something I would like to see, which is obviously VR first, but at the same time, sort of really belongs on the Vive first platform. Because that's another thing I personally dislike about uh, some creations in general is where the platform it's hosted on is just a necessity or doesn't really facilitate what you're trying to do. So for those who haven't seen or played the game, um, the rundown is it's a tower defense game. So all the default things you would expect. You have your map in front of you. There are points from which enemies will spawn, and they'll progress to well the tower which you need to defend. How do you defend it? Well, by placing small towers on the map that will actually attack the enemies, hold back the enemies. So far, box standard tower defense. But here's the VR element, the twist, is these towers, at least not all of them, don't really do the work for you. Like you have a watchtower, which just stands there. So in order to actually make use of these towers, as soon as the round begins, as the enemies begin to spawn, you actually need to man these towers. So you teleport onto these towers, and then you actually start fending off these enemies. And there's a bit of a mix between, well, the manual labor of actually shooting down the enemies compared to towers helping you out in holding back these waves of enemies. And the focus is also a bit multiplayer and teamwork. So to utilize the multiplayer and voice chat and other networking capabilities of the Viverse platform, you can actually join up with one or two friends. So 1 to 3 players can be in one game, and you can sort of during combat decide whether you are on the field, so actively fighting, or then teleport back to the overview that's sort of inside the tower where you see the map and place all the towers. And there you can sort of have a clear overview of the battle situation, but you can't really interact too much with the enemies. So you're not shooting at the enemies from the tower when you look at the map, but you can sort of see where everyone is, where the enemies are, where the enemies are coming from, and you can help with placing some spending some magical points to place some additional traps on the track to help out, and then you can jump back in. And so, by sort of having that duality where you either have the overview and the strategy, but not the direct impact on the enemies, versus on the field close to the enemies, but maybe not having the full oversight of the battle. The idea is that by working together, you can sort of well, give clues where the enemies are to teleport back around, and hopefully together as a team manage to fend off all the waves. There are 10 waves in total, because that's something when you design something VR first, I didn't want to make it a long experience where you would sit a full hour, if not longer, to go through it. So it should be manageable in. Depends on how quick you go to it, but within half an hour you should be at least at the end of the game, and maybe sooner if you don't perform too well in holding back the enemies, because it's not an easy game in the sense that you won't get a free win. Um, and that's basically the premise of the game. That's the way it's been created. And it's over on Fiverr. So anyone who wants to try it, or if someone already has tried it, amazing. Yeah, that's like the basic rundown of it. And the technicalities, that's where it's because I'm not really the person for the visuals. I'm always for the technical little details. And it was actually my first time working with Play Canvas, because Fiverr has a lot of SDK and tooling and extension catered towards using Play Canvas. They are now opening it up to allow other types of experiences easily on their platform, but at the time when I started, Play Canvas was sort of the go-to solution. Um, and I must say, it's a very interesting platform or product, Play Canvas. It has WebXR capabilities. That's obviously a must if you want to create something WebXR first. I did run into some things where I was sort of surprised that it didn't handle as gracefully as I was used to with 3DS. But I think that might be mostly due to the fact that like the Meta team, or especially Rick, is sort of really hands-on with getting things fixed and working in 3DS, which other engines might not really benefit that much from. But nothing that is sort of show-stopping. And actually, the proprietary editor from Play Canvas is really nice to work with. Normally, I'm more of a code first person, but like if you're used to Unity or just more visual editing of scenes and you know, just the whole scene graph and placing everything together, configuring components and stuff. Well, the Play Canvas editor does a really good job of it. Fully in the browser, so it's not a separate application. And that helped me a lot in getting things quickly up and running. And well, all I can say is if you have a cool idea, and because Fiverr is sort of funding projects that they think are viable, so if you have a cool idea for WebXR, definitely consider it to look into if Fiverr could help with funding, or even without funding, if it's an interesting platform for you to develop for. It shows a lot of promise, is my take.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just the half marketing, half rambling of my. If there are any concrete questions or just questions in general, feel free.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you have any particular inspirations as far as the tower defense mechanics go? Like any particular games, or are there any
Yeah.
like
So
VR
yeah.
examples for this? I guess.
So it feels like there needs to be more
Yeah.
VR examples. Like, the one thing that I recall, well, it was not a direct inspiration, but I think a year or so ago in VR chat there was like a simple tower defense game, but it was, I believe it was against cars. So you were shooting up cars. I don't recall the specifics, um, but it made me. Yeah, I'll drop the link in the chat shortly, which I now realize wasn't the best idea to join on headset.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
But yeah, so the inspiration, like I recall seeing that and thinking to myself, like there needs to be more tower defense in VR in whatever shape, even just the traditional sense. Um, but then while playing actually Orcs Must Die, not in VR, I sort of really like that the game franchise Orcs Must Die because it takes tower defense but makes it more well third person but more involved. Doing more of the work, but I think you can sort of see where this is going. That was around the time where I was starting to thinking about the project, and Fiverr reached out and I was thinking about stuff. And I was like, yeah, I think VR would be a good fit to have a tower defense where you actually, just like Orcs Must Die, are sort of more directly involved in the combat. Um, so that was definitely a clear inspiration. Oh, thanks for the link in the chat. That's indeed the correct
Yeah,
link.
I was just looking for it.
And yeah, basically, the Orcs Messiah was a big inspiration. But at the same time, in terms of mechanics, because you need to have some way. I didn't want to, yeah, I didn't want to make it too exhaustive because that's the other design philosophy I really wanted to get in is I have no idea what kind of people stumble upon Fiverr, might see the game, might enter it. I wanted to keep it simple, somewhat engaging, but allow people to quickly get most out of the experience. So I tried to make this intuitive as possible and keep the mechanics relatively straightforward. And I was thinking like, yeah, the traditional VR mechanic of shooting a bow is so appealing to attempt. Like it's either a gun or a bow. I mean, that felt so natural. But I didn't want to go fully the standard route of, well, here's a bow or here's a gun. So it became a slingshot, which is in a way just a bow, but it felt a bit more tactile. I now know that it's not the best decision because you can actually occlude your hand with your other hand when pulling the string. So that's a bit of an oversight. Um, but all in all, it's I think it's a nice approach. But yeah, other than that, no other inspirations necessarily incorporated now.
And then I was curious about what stuff you hit with Play Canvas that I guess 3JS had already covered out of the box.
Yeah, so it's a variety of things. One thing that was the most shocking to me was actually that like the frustum culling, because you have two eyes, so there's always the option of doing frustum culling twice, which is inefficient and not nice. So that's not what they're doing. They're doing just like 3ds, only one frustum culling phase and then rendering for both eyes. But the frustum is based on just the left eye, so the first view, which yeah means that in the corner of your right eye you can sort of see some popping in cases. So I patched around it. I think that's the other thing that's always tricky with VR. Designing for VR is like I'm my left eye is my dominant eye, so I didn't really notice it for the longest time. But I think if someone's right eye is dominant, it will probably be more annoying. So that's one of the things I ran into. But the other is more they um, they don't have WebXR layer support as far as I know. but instead of directly drawing to the back buffer, they actually still that's the wrong word. They actually draw to an intermediate buffer that is multi-sampled, and then they blit it to the back buffer. Well, obviously on mobile devices that's not ideal, but the way they sort of counteract it is by saying, well, the back buffer isn't aliased, so the multi-sampling anti-aliasing happens on the intermediate buffer, and instead of letting the browser or the OS doing the resolve, they do the resolve with a blit. So some of the cost that you get by having that intermediate buffer is saved by doing that blit, which works nice on paper, but for WebXR that actually means that you can't make use of fixed VOVation on the back buffer. I know that now you can actually, but when I started from you can't. But like in the Quest browser, you can now actually sort of call on any render target the VOVation level. But that's another point I ran into where it all works and still looks good. It's just that performance-wise, there's like some things left on the table, and that was just a bit of a pity because it felt like it's one of those things where you can design everything accordingly within the resource limitations that you have. But if you know that there's things left on the table for no clear reason, it feels wasteful. So I also sort of hacked around it, but I'm planning / hoping to open some PRs on PlayCanvas engine to maybe get it upstream, those changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those types of things. So they're not small, they're not big, and they're not sort of showstoppers, but they are points where I sort of very used to 3DS just doing it a certain way.
For sure.
Yeah.
Didn't want to monopolize. If anyone else had any questions about the game.
No, I was just curious if WebXR is completely working out of the box now in PlayCanvas. I think I did some PlayCanvas, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I vaguely remember I just had to add all kinds of XR classes or functions to get it to work.
I have no experience with prior versions of PlayCanvas, but in the version used now, which it's really little more than saying like app.xr.start and then pass the camera and stuff, and you're almost good to go. There was actually some compatibility issues with Pico. Go figure. Because the Pico browser on like the Pico Neo 3 or even the Pico 4 is just a little outdated. So that meant also some working around it. But one of those fixes actually got upstreamed. I actually opened a PR on no, that I just reported, a different issue. I opened PR, but by and large, PlayCanvas and WebXR it just worked out of the box. It's almost like just a one-liner to get the immersive session started.
Oh, that's nice.
Carlos, are you trying to join like a lobby for Nordy's game?
Oh, well, it should work, but if it doesn't, that will be somewhat embarrassing.
I think it doesn't load if you don't have WebXR in the browser. I just opened it in the browser, and then when I enabled the immersive web emulator, it worked.
Yes, so there were some because that's the benefits and downsides, of course, on being on a certain platform is like there is some wrapper code and some logic around it. It definitely used to work at launch. It was sort of accessible on desktop, but it sort of would sort of show a message like, oh, no WebXR support found. But I know they were looking into sort of different device filtering and stuff, so there might have been a change. If you just open it on desktop, but for sure it should definitely work on a headset. Let me check myself.
Yeah, I'm charging up mine.
Are you planning on Are you planning on pushing it on the new tab page then?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Are you going to push it on the new tab page soon? Submit it to the new tab page.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of contemplating that. Personally, that's not necessarily all what it's weird. Like I don't really feel compelled to do it. There's no reason not to do it, but uh, um, yeah, it could be added. Um, I did pay a lot of effort in making it run as smooth as possible. So it, especially single player, it should hit 90 FPS on a Quest 3 and 72 FPS on Quest 2 and Pico 3.
Yeah.
Um, um, well, I just for me it does still load on a headset in any case, but yeah, I have no idea what the desktop experience is at the moment. It used to be that it just loads and shows a message that no WebXR would support, unless it found WebXR support, of course. Which is obviously also the case. Like if any of you have like the emulator or an older emulator version, um, no guarantees how it behaves in that case.
On desktop, it only worked for me after I had the immersive web emulator enabled, so it might be just because of that. So try the headset.
Yeah, it could be like there's because they were the Fiverr team was working on making device filtering and behave slightly different, so they might have launched it. Normally, it should then show a clear message that it isn't supported on this device with the link back to the main page, but maybe that doesn't work in particular.
Yeah, I think it doesn't work really. It was just stuck. I think a friend of mine had also tried it on browser, on desktop browser, and also had just the page stop loading, essentially the content stuck on the loading page.
Yeah, okay, then I'll look into that.
Yeah, no error message either. I think. So
Mm.
I'll just check it out in the new browser. Hold on.
Did you use like controller support or hand support? And more specifically, do you think the hand support there is uh, complete?
Yeah, okay, so
Hand
no,
control?
it's controller only. That's something I maybe should have mentioned. And part of the reason for that is that the Viver's SDK at the moment only handles controller tracking and controller support. Um, and that's one of the points where I was contemplating adding hand tracking um, functionality because, well, the Viver's SDKs and the logic on top is just a wrapper around their player controller, the networking stuff, and it also gives access to the controllers. But the controllers are also accessible through just the standard Play Canvas WebXR elements. So I could have hacked in hand tracking support, but as I mentioned before, I sort of envision it needs to live in the Fiverr's platform. So I feel that well, not necessarily any, but limitations coming forth from the current state of the SDK are sort of inherited in the game. That's also one of the reasons where I deliberately let the players use the Fiverr's avatars or whatever avatar they've configured on their Fiverr's account. They are a little bit too heavy to really hit those performance targets you would want. So in a multiplayer setting, when three people are there with not the most optimized VRM avatars that you can pick in Fiverr, the performance does suffer. With reprojection, you can still hit like the well, depends if you're Quest 2 or Quest 3. You can still hit like playable frame rate, and reprojection makes it pretty nice, all things considered. But I was there also with the decision, like, do I sort of make my own avatars as well and sort of force these onto the players? But then the more you integrate those types of things, I feel that you get away from the notion of this is a game that lives in this platform. And it would just be, well, I'm using the platform to host the stuff, but I'm just avoiding all the stuff and doing my own thing. There's something to be said for it, but personally, I feel like it's the same like if I would create a VR chat world, I would want things to be well, partially you're forced, but partially also it would feel wrong to not follow the patterns and the limitations and the design philosophy behind platform you're on. So no, to get back to the question, it only supports controllers at the moment, and hand tracking support in Play Canvas is fully implemented, and well, in the Vivers SDK that's currently not present.
That makes sense. Did did you see? Do you know? Do they have portal support where you can go between as part of their? I imagine, but you can create other than to a lobby or something like that, where you could create direct links between your environment and another one.
Yeah, so they have some no-code stuff, and I believe there's an example for a certain portal, but it's not anything very special in a way. So I believe most worlds on Fiverr that use any sort of interlinking or portals do it in the very naive or traditional way of just redirecting to the different world. That does mean, if you're familiar with other social platforms where a portal would directly point to an instance, that is currently not what's happening. So you'll always point to a world, and then you will get automatically routed in a certain instance. Um, I don't know if they have plans to rework or expand on it. Um, and there's also no like if you like the immersive navigation or traversal draft spec is also not implemented. So it's really a redirect and a refresh in a way. But that way you can interlink worlds, and some worlds do that on Fivers. Um, but it's definitely, I think that's one of the things they have the potential to implement portals in a more integrated and interesting way there.
I was kind of wondering more if they could integrate with an external site. You know, if you could come in from Hyperfi or a different, you know, WebXR supporting world space into Viveverse, you know, that type of thing through WebXR, for instance.
You know, that would be real cool. I don't think they have plans for anything of the sort at the moment, but I haven't really looked or talked or asked them about it in that sense. Um, no, but yeah, it would be awesome, especially with avatar support. It would be cool if they could, if there would be a way to, yeah, just seamlessly carry over from one environment to another on different sites. No, yeah. There was a question in chat, but oh, sorry, but I can't really
No,
read it.
I was just saying, there's that group that does the web traversal, Ben Irwin, and there's a group around it. I was talking to one of the guys, and they were wondering about Viverse and whether it could be, you know, whether I think somebody might have been talking to them about it. So anyway, it's cool. I'm
It'd
glad you.
probably be a
You know,
good fit for their like world traversal thing, considering uh, everything else I think they visited.
Um, Sorry. My question was how difficult was it to integrate the avatar system and IK and things like that?
Yeah, okay, so here's it's gonna be a real shocker. There's no IK. I don't know.
Oh,
That's very sad. No. So the Vipers SDK and stuff actually is it's sort of a layered thing. They have their own, well, of course, the UI elements, but they also have their own logic, and on top, the SDK with which you interact with their middleware, basically. And part of the middleware is like their Avatar SDK, which I believe they are opening up for other engines and even potentially use outside of Fiverr. Don't quote me on that. But they use like Play Canvas VRM, which is mostly, I believe, a port slash rewrite of the 3 VRM project. And they have their own avatar on Fiverr's platform. You can create your own avatars in different styles, and they will be all be VRM avatars. And then when you enter a world on the platform, it will automatically load the VRM avatars based on your account and the others in the room. They don't have an IK system, but they have the rudimentary walk animations, fly, jump animations, and some preset animations. You can, I believe, upload custom animations, though I don't know how good that works or how. I mean, as a world creator, it's probably very doable to create some preset animations. But I believe as end users, you can even um, upload some animations. But when you enter VR, that's one of the other things that but it's not a limitation of Play Canvas. It's more a limitation of the current state of the Fiverr SDK. Is there is no IK, so the default behavior is that first person your avatar will be hidden, and if you see the others, you will see them in a sort of idle animation all of the time, which definitely is slightly detrimental in the case of my game, because when you stand around the table, it would be nice if you could actually point at things. But the other way to look at this is communication is key. Embrace the verbal communication aspect of it, and use the voice chat capability to its fullest extent. So no, there's no IK, which there might be down the road. I have asked them about it, and um, but I asked it in a non-committal way. Like I was designing the game in a way that it could work without IK. So it was more a question like, is this on the roadmap? And I believe the extent was, well, we're working on reworking certain parts, etc. So that was like a non-clear answer whether it will be included or not. Um, but uh, yeah, no. So worst case, you could start implementing your own IK system on top, because well, most things end up just being play canvas construction, so you can sort of peek under the hood a little bit and access all the elements. And because they use that play canvas VRM library, you can get a pretty good handle on how those things work. But obviously, you don't want people all rolling their own solution if the platform could provide it.
I can
Yeah,
bug
yeah.
James about it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I guess now that you've done this project with Vibers, would you do another one with them in the future?
That's definitely a possibility. It Yeah, no, it's like that's one of the things. Like when I do a lot of the way I saw this project, a bit of personal note is like I do a lot of small experiments and projects all the time, but like only a very small percentage ever see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I sometimes get slightly saddened by my project folder, which has so many stuff which I think is still pretty cool, but sort of
Mm-hmm.
yeah, somewhere in whatever state. So I really saw it also as a interesting opportunity to well dig a bit deeper in one project, as well as also sort of force myself to bring it to a completion. Uh, yeah, let AI take over my side projects. Um, who knows? Who knows? No, it could be, but it's like then is it then still my side? No, no, I'm not protective over those things necessarily, but it's sometimes I don't know if you guys recognize the sentiment, but sometimes you just want to experiment with something, and as soon as you've answered that question for yourself, um, you don't it's like sometimes it can be well with the micro gestures. I don't know if you saw that little
Mm-hmm.
Connect 4 game I made. That's something I managed to create in a day, but the real goal was just trying out micro gestures. Um, and it might have well just have ended there and never published because well microgestures, yeah, they work this way, okay, nice, and then I would have just
Yeah, I know the feeling that you're talking about very well.
yeah, you sort of you answer the curiosity in the question you have, you've already solved it, and you're like it's still cool. And but it's always it's like also the 80/20 rule type thing where like um if you want to polish it up a little bit, that's gonna take the most time, because the most time the
Yeah,
Connect 4 thing actually costed was the AI. Well, not AI as in not the modern definition of AI, but the traditional computer player AI stuff. Um, which that just took the most time compared to all the other rest. Whereas the goal was the micro gestures, which is always sort of weird. Um, yeah,
You
but
also get
definitely,
the stuff like micro gestures in pretty fast usually, right? Like
Mm,
that's
barely
usually
hear
like,
you.
this is how it works. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
No,
spatial
because I was
motors.
like trying to experiment with body tracking before I realized it was like removed, and then just seeing some demo and then understanding how it worked and porting it to 3GS. That was just so fun to do, and then I felt like, oh, and then I have to do all the stuff in Blender. That was kind of annoying.
Wait, you say the body tracking API
yeah.
is not there anymore?
Yeah, they removed it.
Huh.
So I talked to Rick about it, and it's not standardized in the
Hmm.
browser or in OpenXR. So they're waiting for standardization to re-enable it. Essentially,
I see.
it's a Meta SDK at this point. So native has still access to it, but web is
Hmm.
restricted.
That makes sense.
That's a pity. I didn't do enough with it because I've been experimenting with like IK stuff, and I wanted to incorporate the full body tracking stuff in the Quest browser as like optional enhancement to the IK system. Because obviously I still want to target devices that, well, I don't want to hide it behind the flag. So if you need to have full body tracking, there would be a bit of a big ask. So I wanted to have the system work with just the headset and the controllers or hands, depending on which you use, but optionally sort of get enhanced performance with the full body tracking. But yeah,
Yeah. I was also thinking about going for a system that does both, or like falls back um, to using hand tracking, and got like a system with Mixamo running for a demo, but like it's obviously not as good as if you have body tracking. And also, my code kind of it's not that great at this point, so it's become a bit of a mess. So I'm still waiting for Rick to enable it. So um, yeah, a couple of months, I think that they might have like something new to announce hopefully.
cool.
Hopefully, the final version will be more conducive to mapping to avatar. Because I just remember my like one experiment that I tried to do with it. Like I managed to map all the joints to the corresponding ones, and then the model was completely twisted out of proportion.
Yeah, that's the main issue usually.
Yeah, it's like it's always fun working with armatures and
Hmm.
different spaces and orientation and stuff, and it's always such a fine line between a complete garbled mess and something that works. And yeah, no, I feel you.
You know, it's funny. I recently started like a very small kind of game engine project just to kind of learn more about web GPU rendering stuff, and I'm just thinking is like, man, how far do I want to take this? And then I thought about how if I did make a game engine, I would have to figure out how to support like skinning and armatures, and it really made me reconsider even beginning. But that's maybe a down the line issue for me to solve if I ever actually keep going with this past a couple months or whatever.
It can be fun, and like if you build your own skinning and stuff from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
like you only have yourself to blame.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm trying to do stuff with the VRM avatars, I always sort of bemoan the fact that between version 0 and 1, they decided to loosen some of the restrictions on the bone orientation and spaces.
Mm.
So you can encounter all sorts of wacky stuff in the 1.0 versions.
Jen, I think
Yeah,
there's.
yeah.
You
For
said
Play
they have their
Canvas,
own
there's
library.
indeed there is like a Play Canvas VRM library. It's not official by Play Canvas, and from the code, it seemed to be a port of the 3.1. Yeah, I believe it's open source. Like, well, I looked at the source, but I don't know if it is open. No, but I don't think it's sort of well maintained. At least I don't know the specific. It could be confusing things now, but from what I saw, it was just mostly a port, and it seemed to be somewhat dated because some of the, well, notably the things I made, the fixes I upstreamed in the 3 VRM1 weren't present. So when I looked,
Hmm.
but
Is PlayCanvas able to like ingest VRMs and like just treat them as like GLBs or?
well, because I was sort of targeting the Vipers SDK, I never really tried it myself to
I
just
see.
ingest them. Obviously, there is like the graceful fallback where if it's just a GLB file, it should be able to load most of it. Of course, not all the metadata and not the mtune material. Uh, but the default fallback should, of course, be like the unlit materials for those types of, well, depending if the avatar uses, of course. So I would be surprised if it causes issues, but definitely for the best experience, you want something that can actually handle those extensions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice being able to get things like spring bones and all that stuff.
Yeah, because but that's the only thing I think is like the spring bones are indeed very important, or some of the node constraints as well. If a model uses those and you don't have proper support for it, you can actually end up with models that don't translate well beyond the T-pose, which makes them, well, not gracefully regress to a normal GLB. Because like the clothing could be stuck in T-pose when you move the bones,
Yeah.
which is just not usable. Whereas if it's only like the mtune material that's not supported, well, then you can still have a functioning model that sort of interacts with the environment and
Mm.
moves normally. But yeah, some of the node constraints or spring bones without them, it can look like completely wrong. Yeah.
How long was the development of the project?
Yeah, so it's like 6 to 8 weeks. It's not but the intensity that I worked at was a bit varied. Um, but it's always those things. I don't know. It sometimes feels like you can accomplish more in short spans of times, and then sometimes when you, because there's a lot of things I would have liked to do with this project, uh, beyond what is sort of currently there. And I think, and that's maybe a nice idea for you guys. Like, if you think about tower defense and VR, I mean, I think there's so many untapped potential there and so many ideas left to explore. Ultimately, I made some concessions and some design decisions early on, but in the back of my mind, I always think like, what if instead of sort of, well, manning the towers, you were actually sort of slashing the enemies, for example, like
Mm.
those types of design considerations where I think like you could definitely explore like a VR first tower defense game in many ways, and I would just love to see more of it in general. Um,
That actually just gave me an amazing idea. VR tower defense, but replace the slingshot with darts. Now you have balloons VR.
yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, you get um, yeah, but then you are the monkey. Now, no, but there is. Well, I think that's maybe nice to sort of share those design ideas as well. Like one of the problems I ran into is like you want the action of the players to be meaningful, um, and as soon as you have like automated towers, which are in the game as well, you end up with um, what is the ratio between an automated tower and a player? And then don't forget, it's still a game. It needs to be fun, but you don't want to sort of measure, oh, this tower can kill so many enemies at this rate. Can the player keep up? Because if the player can't even keep up with a single tower, a single automated tower, like you automate yourself away in no time.
Mm.
Um, so either you limit the effectiveness or of the towers, or you make them very inaccessible. But then they could be very late game, and you're sort of okay. The game loop is very focused around the same mechanic way too long. And perhaps that's still the case. I don't know. Um, but the other decision you could take is incorporate different scenarios for like the automated towers can target most enemies. Oh, but here are, well, Bloons tower defense does it a lot, I believe, where you have like different enemy types that are well, that you need to address in a different way. So then you could create a distinction between, well, the automated towers do a certain workload, and the human players a different kind of workload. I think Orcs Must Die has it in a similar vein as well, where like the Gnoll hunters are, um, well, not really following the same path and are sort of fast enough to outrun or dodge a lot of the traps. So you'll have to deal with them at some point. Well, they go seek you anyway. So I think that those types of design decisions are definitely needed to make the gameplay balanced. If you really have the hybrid between doing the work yourself and letting the towers do the work. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it could be interesting if, like, to take advantage of the VR aspect of it. It's like you mentioned different enemy types. If you could, like, if you had towers that could target multiple types, but you had to like go into VR and like manually switch it, that could be interesting.
You know, that's one of the things that was on the drawings for the in the design, where I was thinking, because it's one of the things, because I wanted it to be relatively easy for people to get in and not and sort of get most of out of it in the first playthrough. So not necessarily focusing on replayability. Um, I wanted I was sort of concerned that some people might get some fatigue from like the slingshot mechanic. Um, so towards the mid game slash late game, you can definitely have towers do a lot of the work for you. So that definitely saves some. And some of the later tower, the later tower where you can also manually man them, has a different mechanic that is more point and click esque behavior. So it's a little easier on the arms, hopefully. Um, but one of the things I did actually consider is you could have towers that just fire in a certain mode or certain way, and the human interaction is more fine tuning or configuring them. Well, switching mode wasn't necessarily what I had in mind. In my mind, I had like a cannon that would just shoot in a parabol, like in a trajectory, and you would sort of have a wheel to sort of start rotating it slowly. So you have to sort of aim it manually. Um, it sounded fun on paper until I realized that's just busy work. But those types of things I can definitely see. And if you go that route, because I did sort of explore the idea a little bit more, I was like, okay, but once you're sort of tuned it in the way you want it, what is the reason to change it again? Well, then you could have like, well, in enemies that would sort of not target the tower and follow the path, but actually target your defense towers. So actually, some sort of sabotaging going on. Well, it's sort of enemies that attack the tower, which makes the, well, perhaps cannon spin out again, and you need to sort of go in and fix it. That would add a bit of well, dynamic elements to it, and a different kind of interaction where the VR element isn't just combating enemies. Yeah, but ultimately, I didn't really fit in the direction I went in the implementation. Yeah.
Did the Viveverse guys, when you were originally talking with them about the scope, did you have to have it pretty well thought out from beginning to end, or were you just said, you know, it's going to be like kind of you can explore along the way?
In my case, I definitely explored along the way, and the initial pitch was not detailed on the mechanics, but mostly focused on the premise and the promise. So definitely the element of well, definitely WebXR first, tower defense, focusing on both the teamwork aspect, because the multiplayer element was there from the start, because I think that's one of the pivotal reasons why it would be on a platform like Fiverr. As well as the manning of the towers. The slingshot was specified quite clearly, but the other towers and elements weren't fully fleshed out. And there was definitely a lot of, well, basically the concept was pretty short blurb, giving a general idea of the premise and the promise. And as I went along, I just explored and tried different things. But it obviously depends, I think, on. Well, yeah. So in my case, it was not sort of fully specified upfront in many regards. But I sort of know from other creators that they actually had a way more concrete pitch initially. But I think the Fiverr team in general is pretty open to a lot of ideas, and actually really want the creators to create the world they envision, and not so much them forcing down a particular vision.
Can I chime in?
Sure.
Yeah. So yesterday I was in a Zoom call with one of the Viber's people that selects projects. Her name is Chris. She's out of San Francisco, and she was being hosted by Andy Fidel from Get Social. For those of you that follow LinkedIn, and she was very clear that they're very open to as many projects as long as they're not super weird and crazy, and you can just give them a concept and then they will, help you finance it and make it happen. And they just seem very open to trying to build a community. They say initially they're just trying to get everybody in there, and they want to create a YouTube style thing that they can start banking on advertising later on once they get a solid foundation in the community. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I found their focus on helping creators create is very encouraging.
Yeah, they're very positive, and they seem. I mean, it seems genuine and not,
Mm.
just trying to get a talent to do work for free kind of thing. And I was very impressed. I mean, you could probably catch if you guys know Andy Fidel. You know who I'm talking about. She's in France. She gets social. No,
Yeah, I know of her. I've never talked to her.
okay. Well, if you look her up, you can see the probably she could even get a recording of that if you wanted to watch it. If you're really interested in doing some project with Viverse, it'll give you. This woman was very transparent as far as I could hear from her expression that they were very willing. How long ago did you get your project in?
Yeah, so I think the initial talk started last year, November or December.
Mm,
But it took a while before it actually got all signed off and stuff. But since then, they've actually opened up the program a lot more, and like it's so.
yeah,
In my case, they reached out to me, but now they're like indeed
yeah,
way opener and trying to scale things up. It seems.
Mm.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I do fully agree. Like the interactions with them are always pleasant. They are genuinely interested in well, in pushing the Fiverr platform forward. But yeah, as creators, it, I mean, they're like the creator meetups happening every Monday at an annoying time slot for me, but they are sort of fun to attend, and yeah, it's like they really want sort of a good mix of content created by the creators, and
yeah.
very open to it.
Do you have a link to for people to share with these people about if they're interested to get started?
I believe there is something on the Fiverr site itself. It's a bit difficult um, to share links from my headset, I find.
There's
Yeah,
also a link to
Yeah.
the Viver's community Discord on the
Yeah, I would
WebXR
definitely join their
related
Discord
channels.
because there's a lot of people helping out. Well, it's like what they're trying to set out to do also works pretty good. The sort of creators helping each other, so it's very uh, yeah, very fun and open community. Um,
are any of
so
you
yeah.
guys interested in doing anything there or not?
I have been in talks, so I do have something cooking at the moment.
No, don't leave the stove on. Do you guys know Cost and Christie?
Yes.
Yeah, so they have a project. They worked there and they were very happy with the interaction, and they created a game in there. Do you
Is
know Cost and Christie?
Yeah. I've talked
is
to
that
them during the creator meetups as well. Yeah.
they're the ship happens one, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
that's
Ship
right.
on it.
Yeah. Jen, are you doing anything in there? If you're still with us?
Yeah, he's been on the AI kick lately.
He's AI. Okay.
Well, a mix of spatial stuff and AI, but it sounds like he's been working more on production stuff.
Hmm. Well, congratulations on getting in there. I'm actually came in the headset so that I could try to get into your Viverse because desktop did not work for crap. And now I sent a link to myself that I can click on. I use Google Docs and then pin that on my Quest menu, and that way anything that I want to see, I just click on the link and it'll take me in there.
Mm.
So I will. I want to see what your work looks like. We're not going there, are we today? That's
Um,
not. That's not in the agenda.
not like
If people are up for it, we
super.
can. But
Yeah, I kind of figured it's like once everything in this space wrapped up, anyone who wants to play could go over there, and if people want, we can try and like match up in the party. How many is it per instance again?
yeah, so max 3 players in an instance.
Okay,
Mm.
but yeah, I think I definitely
That's a
will check it out
limitation.
after.
Oh, sorry. That's a limitation Vipers has,
No,
or
no,
is
no,
it
no, no,
something
no.
on your side?
That's a limitation I implement because couple of reasons. Most prominent is to have some performance guarantees I can at least give.
Mm,
um, and the other is the networking I implemented is in some ways a little bit naive, but it is basically based on the premise that a lot of the things happening in a wave are deterministic. So for game balance reasons, the behavior is like, it becomes theoretically becomes easier with multiple players to some extent. But to keep the game balance in check and be able to test and play test it, I left it between 1 and 3 players. I think any more and would just become chaotic. And because there's a shared resource, it becomes also quite confusing. Like, yeah, how are you going to scale it to 10, 20 people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to tackle that challenge of like a massive multi-online tower defense game. Sounds fun, but that's a different project. Yeah. No, but Fivers itself, I believe, 40 or 50 is like the default cap in a world. I don't know for sure, but I believe you can crank it up pretty high. But beyond that, it's just the default instancing stuff. I will say that the default avatars can be quite heavy. So definitely on mobile and VR, it can be not ideal to be in a room with many people. Let's say.
Oh yeah, I remember James mentioning the like realistic avatar I came in with once was like 100 MB or something. I was like, oh.
Yeah, some of them are like really hefty to download, but also just to have in video memory and render. So that's the reason for the max 3 players, just for the game balance and for performance reasons.
You have to use Play Canvas or Unity?
No, so their SDKs and stuff are originally sort of built around the Play Canvas stuff, and they have a Play Canvas extension for the browser to sort of publish to Fivers easily. But they have or are planning to, I don't know the timeline exactly, to allow publishing like Unity experiences or 3DS experiences. So they're really trying to opening it up to a lot more different frameworks and engines. While still giving access to like the Avatar SDK and stuff. I haven't really looked or kept up to date with the progress on that front. When I started out, it was sort of I could have targeted something else, but it was sort of I sort of got the impression that at this stage, but I'm talking like December last year or so when we're in talks of Play Canvas would be the way to go. But I think if you would sort of contact them now and talk about like a 3DS or perhaps because maybe you're asking for Wonderland. I don't know how they roll out the other frameworks or engines. How much they want to sort of test it themselves or ensure that certain stuff works. I think they reach out to them. They're very open and I think they would be interested in being able to have Wonderland experiences there as well. But I don't know if it's particularly on the roadmap at the moment.
How do you pronounce your name? Noeri?
It's more an O, like Nuri.
Nuri. Nuri, I can confirm now that I was able to get in VR to your world. So I got the start screen and everything, and then the credits and stuff. But desktop definitely does not work. So
Yeah, no,
You
yeah, that's something I'll look into. It used to just give you a message. Well, if you had if you have PCVR like WebXR working on desktop, it used to allow it. And then if you didn't, it would just show like the landing page with a message that WebXR support not found. Um, but it might be that the Five first people have tweaked things to in a way that now broke my stuff. No, no, I'll look into it.
don't laugh. That happens all the time. I remember AltSpace and VR Chat upgrading to different versions of Unity and stuff. It
Oh,
would
yeah.
break the entire world, and you had to go back and fix everything.
Yeah.
It's frustrating as hell.
No, that's one thing. The Fiverr SDK stuff used to auto update, but they're going or are now going to do like version pinning. So the version you released is the version that is sort of used in the hosted experience, which should hopefully avoid a lot of those issues.
It
Yeah.
won't last forever, though.
No, that's the thing. Like personally, I think it's I would rather see things like the platform version incrementing, and well, as a side effect, some of the older experiences might sort of start to decay in a way. But I tend to prefer that over, because I think the one thing I would, but that's more my personal view on things. I would like to see Fiverr evolve more towards something like Altspace or VR Chat, where where there's like a common notion of avatars and expression of those avatars. Like if I would go world hopping with a couple friends in VR, that the way I interact with stuff, the way I move around the world, that's somewhat consistent. So any increments or improvements the Fiverr team would make in that experience would sort of carry over into all these experiences that rely on it. But that's just my personal philosophy of how I would like to see it
evolve. One other point I can say is that Michael Moran, who used to be part of Hubs, is now part of Iverse.
Yeah.
So he's very embedded in. I would suggest you guys invite him over here to one of these events and have him talk more in depth about the structure and everything.
We actually did
Answer
have
questions.
him a couple months ago do like a real Vivers talk. I think the only reason he's not here right now is because he's in the middle of a vacation.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah. No, it's like he's taking a vacation and moving across country, I think. So
again,
I think he said he was moving to New York, and I thought he was in like California.
Well, his girlfriend or wife was in Texas in A&M, as I remember. She's a vet or something like this. They got married, and I ran into him at South by a couple of years ago.
Maybe that's the new final destination for him.
One other question I had, I tried to log into Hubs and it kept sending up send you an email, and I never got it. Do you guys know if that's broken or
I was actually looking at that earlier. It might be broken. I have a couple services hooked up to one email provider. And it should be working, but I tried to send myself a login email for the admin account on this Hubs instance earlier today, and it just didn't send me one. So I probably got to go debug that. Yeah.
I had the same issue.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to bring my own avatar that I have, but I got this.
Change.
Yeah, apologies. I will take a look at it.
No worries. Yeah, this evolving media is always something, right? Things just break. Yep. When you work on it one day, it's fine, and then you go to bed and wake up, it's broken the next day.
Yeah, no, that's always the downside. Yeah.
But that's why we love it, right? Because it's just always never predictable.
Yeah, some sort of love-hate relationship. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. One of those girlfriends after high school. Or boyfriends, whatever you prefer. Anyway, so you're overseas, I imagine, right? Like France or Spain or England or
the Netherlands.
Netherlands, good. Nice. Yep. Are you having good weather now?
For
Not
Dutch
ready.
standards, yeah, yeah, pretty. I mean,
I
it's
know
it's
It's dark now.
yeah. Now
people
now
in
it's
New
dark.
people in New York and stuff are still dealing with 40, and Pittsburgh and stuff with really cold weather. I'm in Texas.
Mm,
It's 100 degrees outside right now. It's incredible. It's like an inferno,
jeez.
but I like it here, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I'm in Hawaii right now.
Ooh, that's pretty nice. Is that where you live, or do you? Are
It
you
is where I live right
vacationing?
now. Yeah. My girlfriend and I.
Good choice.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, it won't be
Nice.
forever, just because housing here is not. It's just a
Also,
non-starter. Like
yeah.
they're like opening up a new neighborhood near us, and I looked at the prices, like single family home, like $800,000. I'm just like that.
At
There's
least.
absolutely no way.
Yeah. No, it's the housing market is really Austin blew up for a few years, but now the
Mm-hmm.
bubble has popped and houses are dropping in prices. They're sitting on the market for a long time. Nobody's buying. The interest rates are messed up. I mean, it's tough to be a homeowner. Anyway, I didn't mean to sidetrack. I'm just adding some sauce to the tacos.
No problem.
So what else?
I think I'll probably have some cool footage to share soon of what I've been working on. So for anyone not familiar, I'm currently working on this game, Grappler's Gauntlet, which is kind of like a FPS arena shooter type thing with grappling mechanics. So the idea is, free for all, players load in. There's a really vertical map that you have to traverse up without getting killed. Because if you get killed, you get reset either to the bottom or maybe to like a checkpoint, depending on how eventual level design goes. But probably initially you'll just be like sent back to the bottom. And so gameplay, a match ends once someone either hits the top or time runs out, and then the winner is decided just based on like score. And yeah, this is an idea I've had for like a while now in various iterations, but I'm currently working on putting it together with Play Canvas and Thora for the match servers.
So a cross of Gorilla Tag with Fortnite, they made it and came up with your version.
Not so much Fortnite since there's no building, but
Mm.
yeah, I guess Gorilla Tag can get pretty vertical. Yeah,
You don't
it's
get. I get sick on those things. It just it makes me want to throw
yeah,
up.
it's not for everyone.
Too
I
much.
fully
No,
acknowledge that, but
but it's made for kids. I guess young kids, teens,
yeah,
and
or anyone.
early
I just
20s.
find the like feeling of grappling in VR to be pretty satisfying. And so, and there's not a lot of experiences that make use of that either. There's like the one Spider-Man game, where the first version came out in like 2017 or something like that, and then no one has really done much
else.
with it. Anyways, even though like in native VR games, there's like plenty of games with grappling mechanics.
Which is the one that you swing from one place to another? Is that Windfall or Wind something?
I think Windfall.
That you grab onto stuff and then you go swinging from place to place.
Yeah. I know which one you're talking about because I did own it at one point.
That was early. That's like 2018, 20, something around there.
Mm-hmm. I think they also they made a second one too, and they added like more I think RPG elements or something.
What's your platform going to come out on? Is it going to be like just a regular game that you submit to Quest, or
it'll be WebXR. Yeah, I am going to try and get it on the new tab page if I can, because there's not a lot of multiplayer games on the new tab page. Like there's Elysian, which is maybe the biggest one, I think. And then Just trying to think what else is out there. You got like WebXR Paintball on HeyVR. Um, Viverse and Hubs kind of count as multiplayer stuff, but there's no like specific experiences listed on the new tab page that are social.
What tab are you talking about?
The meta new tab page, like when you are on Quest and you open up the browser, like the default page.
Oh. I know that the Meta just shifted everything, that they're putting all the gamers in the back of the bus and put all their content in the front, and that pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I don't follow the politics very much, but I know that was weird. It pushed a lot of games that were popular into the back, so that they didn't have the same exposure that they did before.
It's like they need to be treating it more as, I guess, like you would a console game. Like, because it's just like, I also kind of get it because sometimes I have launched the headset and it has the like Horizon feed or the Explorer or whatever it's called in front of me, and the very first thing I do is just dismiss that because I'm not interested in anything that's on there if I'm putting on my headset to either open the browser or open a game. Yeah, I think people
You're talking about
just
Horizon Worlds, where it pops up and it shows all the worlds you can go play in.
Yeah, that thing, I think. And it's like, on one hand, like, I get it. Like, I understand the reasoning why this is being presented to me, but at the same time, I don't care and I wish it wasn't here.
Yeah.
It just feels so invasive where they try to sort of not force you to use it, but it's like,
they're just
that's not
constantly
why I have the
reminding you.
device. That's not what I'm gonna do today, and it's not what I'm gonna do tomorrow. So why show it time and time again? Yeah.
No, it's just they're trying to make money. Capitalism at its best.
There's not a lot of open headsets out there either.
No. Are you guys following the Samsung with Gemini and
Yeah,
what is it? Android XR or something?
Keeping tabs on that.
Yeah.
That could be my next headset if it's as good as they tune it to be. Have all of you tried the Apple Vision Pro?
Yes, I actually own one.
Yeah. Did you do Submerged and the Metallica concert?
I've been meaning to watch the Metallica concert. I've had people tell me it's good, but
I don't like their music, but dude, man, that 14 cameras, it's shot in Mexico City, and their concert, and wow, that really is something else. Have you tried it?
No, I haven't.
No, you go to an Apple store and they'll give you a little taste of it if you live near Amsterdam or big city where they have an Apple store, and they'll Submerged is also quite interesting. They did that and built a submarine and everything from the World War II. You get a little taste of that. It's 180 degrees. Apparently, they're using a $30,000 camera called Black Magic that has dual lenses on it.
Ooh.
And there's a behind the scenes that shows how they shot it and everything. That was the reason. A friend of mine has a headset, and I borrowed it from him for a week, and wow, that's very incredible. Highly recommend it. Do you do anything with your headset, or is it just gathering dust in the corner?
Well, I got it right next to me. I actually need to do some in-headset testing of my game today. I've been getting by with the simulator because it's mostly just been like, okay, if I point this and click, does it grapple me correctly? Yes. Okay. But soon I'm gonna be working on the mode switching, which I forgot to mention in my initial thing. You have a grappling gun that can either like fire a laser or shoot a grapple, but you can only choose one. So you have to kind of be strategic about your movement versus attacking. So my like final test of my mechanics is to make like a little the floor is lava mode, where I'll put a bunch of like grappling points up in the air and then have like a moving target until you'll need to like grapple up and then switch, shoot, switch, grapple to another thing, and so on. And then if I can make that feel good, then I think I've got the mechanics down for now, and I can finally go all in on the networking side of things, which I've kind of been putting off.
Hmm. But you're using an Apple Vision Pro for it? You're gonna have
Oh,
the game
not
in
I
there?
have
or
I
what?
haven't tested this one on Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I probably get in on Quest since controllers are kind of a requirement for this experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to grab stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And also just the precision of being able to like point and shoot is just so much more natural with a controller in hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to use finger guns to shoot the other players.
That's
No.
a later expansion.
Yeah. Version 2.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I find controllers are still very useful in. I
Mm.
like the benefit of not having to pick up the controllers when quickly testing something in a headset, but for most UI interactions and even a lot of gameplay interactions, controllers are just way more, well, reliable and consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like being wired to your computer with internet versus Wi-Fi.
Mm.
It's an interesting analogy. Yeah, in a way, yeah, because it works. That's the thing you can say, like, and you can make it work. But it's just if I had the choice, I still grab the controllers.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also even just for like immersion's sake, like for my thing, just because you're like you're holding gun, holding controller.
Mm. Yeah, just that you feel that you've got some kind of object that you're holding,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
not just
In
using your
that
hand.
sense, the knuckles, the Valve Index knuckles, I still think they're like the best VR controllers out there. Still,
Mm. You have
um,
one?
yeah,
Mm.
because like it is so natural to just have an open hand. Like, of
Mm.
course, you still feel the controller pressing to against the palm of your hand when you have them open, but it sort of quickly fades away in the background, and you just have your hands in natural position until you grab
Mm.
something.
Mhm.
It just works for me, and that's yeah. And I know they're like 3D printed or even third-party components you can sort of use to mimic that with other controllers as well.
I've got straps on mine so I can let go of my hands and they're still there.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that's
it
nice.
brings it pretty close, but I still think, well, maybe there are good ones, but like the knuckles, they just, well, they feel so nice, and like the finger tracking on the side makes it well, that was like it's a fun party trick you could always do in
Fun
like
party
VR
trick.
chat and stuff if people were on a quest, and then you could sort of show before hand tracking was present. You could sort of do like your middle finger, and then the other people were confused, like, how do you do it? Because the finger curling was just mapped to the buttons on the Quest controllers, and like, how do you do? How do you only? Because they thought that, yeah, no, it's fun.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's what I do on weekends. I always go VR chat and show my middle finger. No. But
Yes, you do.
yeah. Well, not on the weekends, just all day long. No.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They have apparently the new system they have that you can use your webcam and then they can show your body language now. I haven't tried that, but have any you tried
I
it?
think I vaguely
haven't
remember seeing something like that.
I haven't tried it, but I have interacted with people who use it, and I think it's a definite step up compared to like people on desktop. Because otherwise, you also like people on desktop are always way too sort of stiff and like not
Mhm.
there.
Robot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like you hear their voice, but you know they're not really in the space. And this, at least, y- when perceiving, it looks a lot better. Like it looks a lot more animated, like you would expect from
Mm.
someone in VR chat. But at the same time, it feels more like a sort of an in between, like a bit of a compromise. Like if
Mm.
I had the choice, I would still prefer like well, I think I haven't tried it myself from the sending end, only from the receiving end, of course. But it feels like I would still miss the immersion. Like there's nothing that beats sort of looking around,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of exciting things being worked on. Um, I'm happy that I'm alive right now.
Mm.
When is your game going to come out that you're
Uh,
working on? Do you have a projected date, like 26 or something like that?
estimated month of July.
Really? So, okay.
Yeah.
You can get the word out here on the Discord channel and let us know about
Yeah,
it.
when we're getting closer to things, and I've got I want to cut together like an actual trailer for it, so I will need to have built up enough of the game to do that by July. That's kind of
Your
how I'm
goal.
going at it. Yeah.
Are you doing it by yourself, or you have several people working on it?
Just me.
No beta testers or anything like that?
I mean, I'll probably get some beta testers a little later down the line, but for now, it's just me as I'm iterating on the mechanics and figuring out networking stuff.
Mm-hmm. Tricky business.
Yeah, thankfully, I've had experience doing this before. The company I work for, Zesty, a couple years back, we had a game on the new tab page, Robot Rally, which was a multiplayer arena shooter in WebXR. So I've had hands-on experience with just about all of the different areas I think I will need to tackle for this.
It's a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys all fans of Walkabout golf, mini golf?
You know, I have never actually played Walkabout.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have the game itself?
I don't. Like, I hear it's very good. I have just never gotten around to getting it for myself.
The only reason why I mention it is because the physics in there are extraordinary. I mean, it's a very social game because you can sit around with 8 people and talk to them, and they're all over the world, and it's just like they're right there in front of you while you enjoy yourselves playing 18 holes of golf or 9 or whatever you wish. And the worlds are all super polished, a lot of polish, but they're very well done. Plus, the lighting is extraordinary. They really squeezed every drop, and it runs very well on a Quest, without having the PCVR support or anything like that. It's gone up to $25. Now you get 30 games. When you first bought it, it was $15, and you got 8 games. And I play with people around the world every Monday and Tuesday and Friday for several hours. I think it, and the developers are here in Austin. I live in Austin, Texas. Mighty Coconut, and they invited me up to a party they had by South by. Got to meet the staff and everything. It was pretty cool.
Oh wow,
cool. Yeah.
That makes me wonder how golf didn't mini golf didn't take off more in like WebXR space, given like how popular Walkabout was. Because we had Above Par, which was the biggest one, and then there was Putt Club from the Ethereal guys, and then like that was it. So like no one did mini golf again after that. I'm just like, I feel like there was still more that could have been done there.
Yeah, but it's almost like every genre of game or experience. It feels almost.
That's not like there are too many of other genres. Like you can see like there's lots of Beat Saber clones in regular VR, but in WebXR we have Moonrider and maybe a few more, but less polished, and other genres as well, like zombies shooters or space shooters.
Shockingly, zombie shooter is not a common WebXR one. You would think.
I don't do anything else actually.
No, because you got like House of the Dead. I guess like I'm thinking like COD Zombies.
It's not a real game. It's a concept.
Yeah, COD Zombies and WebXR would do fantastic, I think, but no one's done it.
Well, one of the best zombie games that came out was out of your country, the Netherlands, is Vertigo Games with Arizona Sunshine.
Yeah, I have it in the library. Never played it.
I played a little bit of it back in the day, I think.
Okay.
I used to play it all the time. I went through the map multiple times. There was some German kid that went through it in 5 or 6 minutes, the entire map.
Mm.
He's on YouTube. It's just incredible. But yeah, it's they improved the graphics and everything, and it's very very bloody. There's a lot of splatter and kind of weird. I mean, it's pretty gory, but it's one of the few games that I could actually get to the end. I'm a terrible gamer, so I like the social aspect of VR more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Sorry, I like turned around and your avatar was like directly in my face. So like half jump
I don't think
scared
I've
me.
moved actually.
I don't think you
You
have.
haven't.
I think I scooted around and ended up in that in position.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna bounce.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's nice
Sorry,
having you here,
I'm gonna-
Carlos.
Yeah, it's always good to see you guys. I'm glad life is moving forward for you all. Good luck with Viverse, and good luck with your game. Do you have a title for it already, or are you still
Grappler's
working on
Gauntlet.
that?
Grappler's
Grappler Gauntlet. Okay, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, you can just
It's
say
not
GG.
Beat Saber.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Have a wonderful Sunday wherever you are. Good evening. Blah blah blah. Until next time.
You too.
See you around.
So,
Bye.
What?
Ciao.
Bye.
What time is it actually? Okay, it's been like an hour and a half.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, when you're having fun. That's the important part. Time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly. Of course, your fun will probably be limited as we have given you a future debugging session to go do.
That's part of the part. That's yeah. Although
Yeah.
sometimes, like, I don't always mind debugging. I mean, it's only when you start pulling your own hair that's the point where
Yeah.
debugging becomes.
When
It's
like,
so weird. Some days you work and you build amazing things and all day long and things go great, and there are days that is this one small little thing that only happens sometimes, and you just can't get it, you can't find it, you can't fix it. I hate those days.
Yeah, but it's like it's also so difficult to explain to people who aren't doing software development. Like, yeah, I spent like a full day and it turned out to be like a stupid mistake in one line, and the other day, like, yeah, I implemented this, and this. And you're like,
Yeah.
it's just it's just the way it goes.
It's like make a door or a system of doors, or make fireworks and like some other visual effects that look like amazing because the physics engine just works. But working like on the state machine of doors is much more harder.
Yeah, it's a simple, but it's like, well, with the Connect 4 thing, like the difficult part was indeed the state machine with the animations, because just the state machine, okay, but then the animations, like, we don't want the next player to already drop the piece before the piece has spawned, and then the other needs to move, and you're just debugging the most stupid stuff with like small animations taking a little bit too long before the input is registered, and you're like, is this what programming is about?
Yes. Yes.
By the way, there's one thing. What I did with no, one thing I sort of discovered while diving into the play canvas rendering stuff, etc., is with the frame timing. Like, if you look at like a frame graph of a traditional WebXR frame, you have a lot of CPU work at the start, at the request animation frame callback, and then you have like a bit of work on the GPU thread of the browser, and then it goes to the actual GPU doing the rendering. And all that needs to fit, of course, in the time budget. But there was this case where like the shadow map rendering happens in play canvas. Oh, no, it was actually the particle system. It's like they have a GPU accelerated particle system, and these update like very early in the CPU work stuff. Um, and I never really considered it, but if you place a flush command for WebGL, like a GL flush, which traditionally you would say no need to ever do it, it actually flushes the command stream earlier, and the GPU thread of the browser does some work in parallel to the other CPU work happening. Um, and it actually managed in one Play Canvas project to actually speed up the rendering, so actually hit slightly higher frame targets with that. And I was sort of surprised by it, because not necessarily surprised because, well, it makes sense if you can do work in parallel, that obviously saves time. But it's sort of I never saw it done with WebXR or just WebGL in general almost, and I was sort of surprised by doing it, because then I thought, and this was something I was sort of experimenting with, what if you try to take that notion and really turn it around and say, as soon as the request animation framework comes in, do the bare minimum you need to render based on the latest headset pose, or the predicted one, of course, and then start rendering as soon as possible, and afterwards do sort of the game logic update and stuff. Um, and I was sort of experimenting with that in Moonrider to see if it could work. And I think it can work, but it requires quite a bit of logic changes, because but it's sort of just a random thing that I noticed, but it feels like there's potential to do something cool with it, or to sort of squeeze out more performance. But it's I think it's tricky to balance. But yeah.
I don't think like I know that OpenXR and other native APIs have like the pose at the start of the frame and like a later pose. But in WebXR we have only the pose for like of the start of the frame. So
Yeah, well, I don't think the specification of WebXR really tells you which one it is. But you do have like the predicted display time, which would suggest that you need to. Well, they ask you to render for a predicted display time, so I would assume that if they can predict the view pose as well, they would do it. But I don't think the specification actually tells you anything about it. Um, but beside that, like the difference within one frame is not going to be noticed probably. But it's more about sort of shifting the GPU workload in parallel to the update logic happening in a frame. That would mean that the world is sort of logic-wise, the game logic-wise, would be like one frame later. But for most interactions, I doubt that would be noticeable. Like if you hit a button, if it's one frame later on like 90 FPS, it's not
no,
going to change
there,
anything.
there there are there are things that we want to have fast, like all the things that are actually interacting with us, like moving a controller and
Yeah.
seeing the controller following your hand. But get some game logic, like if it's a strategy game or even some physics stuff, can be a bit later. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the
A-
interesting part, because even
as
if you,
long as it's constant. Like if we have a physics, it should be like a constant and not like jumping between frames.
yeah, true. But in the sense that even if you would order it traditionally that way, where you would have like a physics stick at the end of your logic, I don't recall ever seeing in any experience like a explicit flush. So always sort of relying on the browser to, at the end of the request animation frame callback, to actually do an implicit flush and start the GPU workload. But you have some control over it apparently. Um, and indeed, if you at the start of a frame do like all the stuff needed to get the controller models and the headset pose, etc., based on the WebXR API input stuff, and then immediately start rendering, um, from that point onwards, you can actually do stuff basically in parallel because the GPU is just busy while you can do like your logic. Um,
I know that like for not WebXR, like the window dot request animation frame, you tell it what to calculate and render uh, in a specific like when it calls, but the things that you told to render are rendered a screen refresh after, like not at the same screen refresh that that the request animation frame was called. So if like you have 60 fps, it will be only 16 milliseconds later that it will actually be rendered. But I think that in WebXR it happens at the time.
yeah,
I'm not sure.
yeah, I believe as well. Like you don't want to have frames in flight more than one. Yeah, no. So for the immersive session, I believe it as well. It's like the frame rendered is going to be shown. Yeah. Well, it depends. Of course, with reprojection, you don't know for sure. They could sort of say no, but in general, yeah, if you hit your frame times, it should immediately show it should show the image you've just rendered. It should not lag behind one frame because lagging behind one frame would tend to mean lagging behind one pose as well, which of course they can reproject to some extent, but no, yeah. But I just found it somewhat fascinating that because normally the traditional thing for like desktop applications and OpenGL was always like a flush, like intermediate flushes are just ignored by most drivers, literally ignored. So I didn't expect it to do anything, but lo and behold, when I used the Chrome DevTools profiling stuff, I actually saw that immediately following that flush, the GPU thread had some work, and the long GPU work at the end of the request animation frame callback actually got shorter. There seemed to be some overhead, but I didn't really look too much into it. Where like, let's say the GPU work was like 4 milliseconds, which is quite long, but all things considered, was like particle systems, shadow map, cluster lighting, rendering, and post processing stuff. So quite a heavy workload. And then when the particle stuff was like split off, like the particle GPU workload was also like, I don't know. It was, let's say for example, say there was 1 millisecond, and then the workload at the end of the frame was like 3 point something. So if you would totally sum all the GPU work, there was overhead by having like multiple flushes and work. But if you looked at the frame time by being able to parallelize GPU and CPU work, the overall frame time actually went down, which was a surprising result for me. But I was sort of wondering, can I push Moonrider to 120 FPS maybe this way? And the short answer thus far in my brief testing was no, sadly.
Is the Quest support 120 in WebXR mode?
Yeah, the Quest 3 for sure. Quest 2, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Quest 3, sorry.
Yeah, Quest 3 can do it. Yeah, it doesn't default to it, but you can. You can.
You can request, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Although obviously only do it when you think you're going to hit it in general.
Do you really
There's
notice the difference?
What?
Do you notice the difference?
Well, sometimes it really depends. Like, yeah, no, I can notice the difference, but it's not as. I think the difference between 72 and 90 is way bigger. Well, obviously numerically it's way bigger in terms of how many milliseconds it will save. But from 90 to 120, it's I tend to notice it most when going back to 90 FPS, which sort of says that it's perceivable, but it's not. Yeah, it's weird. Like I don't perceive it necessarily at the moment, But when you then degrade back to 90 FPS, it's like, oh yeah, no, okay, there was a clear difference. Um, but I think that varies from person to person.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. If I don't think I would notice the difference, but I know that in um, animations, for example, on video, um, on TV and movies and stuff, they have certain things that go each frame, but they also have animations that deliberately skip frames, and normal people would not notice. But I know some people would see that it's skipping frames. It's different. So I was
Yeah,
just wondering if a trained eye might be noticing a difference, but if a player, you would have less time to calculate your next frame
yeah,
if you run on 20 FPS.
yeah.
So if there is no real benefit, why would you go to 20 FPS if
Mm, I think. Well, I don't know if you have like high refresh rate on your phone, but mine is, I believe, also 120 hertz. And I notice it mostly when like scrolling through stuff, which on a phone tends to happen quite often. But it's like you don't really notice it. It happens in a lot of fringe cases, but I think with VR there is a higher benefit to it in terms of like nausea and fatigue that can be
yeah,
induced in general. Where
I see.
even if it's not necessarily perceivable as motion smoothness, it can definitely sort of reduce the fatigue and nausea that some people sort of either experience immediately or over a prolonged period of time. And I think in that area, it's especially for something like Moonrider, which of course is quite intensive on the both visual and the movement, and I think it can have like a clear benefit. But it was also more curiosity, like is it possible to push it further using this technique? Um, but indeed, yeah, it varies from person. Like I can be quite perceptive to these things. Like I've like on my TV, there's like a pixel shift thing where every believe 20 to 30 minutes it shifts like the the entire grid a little bit to avoid burn-in. um yeah, I tend to notice that and some people don't. But it's like it I don't know, it isn't necessarily a trained eye thing. Well, if you know what to look for is also a thing, of course. I know it varies,
If you
but
have seen that once,
yeah, that's definitely also one of those things. As soon as you've seen it once, you'll keep seeing it. um But I think one thing, if you've ever set the refresh rate of the Quest 2 or even the Quest 3, well, the Quest 2 in particular, if you set it to 60, it's horrendous. Not the motion clarity, but like the screen is just flickering all the time, is my
hmm,
experience.
I have
Um,
never experimented with it.
because the thing is, like, you would assume, like, oh, 72 is pretty okay, and then you go to 60, and it's like, what's going on? But it's more like the panel behaving differently than because or the backlight strobing probably. Um,
I,
yeah,
I on performance, I only check if my calculations fit in the in one frame, and if that's there, it's fine by me. I have never looked into it differently. If I notice at some points with some things happening that I go over the amount of time I have in one frame, then there's an issue. Otherwise, it's fine by me. I don't care.
yeah. Well, that's of course the most important part. Like, if you hit the frame times, then that's the yeah, that's key. Um, and it also feel like, well, that's the other thing. Like, you can always drop the refresh like rate to 72 hertz. But it feels sometimes like a crutch where like, oh, I can't make it 90, so I go to 72. But at the same time, it gives a lot of headroom.
Are
Um,
you using like a web worker for the extra? Like how do you make sure that you not actually like stops the request animation frame call?
well, in that part, at this point fully trust two things: the Chrome DevTools profile performance measuring, so the sampling profiler, because it actually does, well, of course, only does sampling, but during the GPU workload that's happening in parallel, the flame graph still includes like different points. So at least the CPU work is advancing in some way. Um, and the other fact that I factor in is that the actual frame time did go down, which I can't explain in any other work than the same amount of work happened in less time. Which either meant things were going faster, although I doubt that, and the most likely explanation is things were actually happening in parallel. Um, which of course the Quest chipset is fully capable of. Um, it is sort of yeah, it is capable to run a GPU and CPU load at the same time. Of course, if the CPU, there are some shared resources, but because the WebXR payloads are virtually single-threaded, um, I don't think the CPU will be ever be pushed to a limit where the GPU would be in trouble. Because that's the thing, like you can have the GPU and CPU levels. I believe I don't know if it's on the Quest 2 as well, but on the Quest 3, like it only goes up to 4 with the auto scaling for either the GPU or CPU, and both can hit 4 at the same time. There's actually a way for native apps to say, well, I want to push either the GPU or the CPU to level 5, but then it actually limits the clock level of the other. Um, so I'm pretty sure that within just basic WebXR payloads, you can't push the GPU and CPU to the point that they would actually conflict with each other in terms of either terminals or clock levels. Um, yeah, so I'm fairly certain that you can sort of get the parallel effect out of it. Um,
I was just looking at the profiler of my for my game, and I just noticed a really interesting thing. When an event happens, a click event, for example, in the game,
yeah,
that's not on a frame. So you get a lot of code that's executed um, during a frame.
yeah.
And in this case that I'm looking at it, it's
And you
accidentally
want it,
fitting within the
you
same frame.
you want it to be like between frames?
No, but it's likely to skip a frame then every time you click something, unless the code that's executed is can fit in that one can
No,
fit always
wait,
in
what?
that one frame. But the frame
What?
starts, and halfway through the frame I've clicked. I mean, even though it's only 16.7 milliseconds the duration of the frame, you never click exactly at the start of a frame.
No, but what should happen is that like the click event handler, the execution of it would be pushed on the event queue, and then at the end of the request animation frame, then it should
No,
handle all the pending set times, out clicks, and other stuff. So
I
those
just
should be
realized what click event this is. It's not the normal click event. It's the enter XR click event. It's a browser click event that's happening.
Wait.
And
In
that's
the
also and then it's also causing a lot of stuff happening immediately because it's entering VR. I just noticed it says enter VR.
yeah, okay.
So
No, then there's
that's in the that
I would
that's
never sort of pull any data from profiling of that particular moment when entering or exiting an immersive session.
I just noticed the peak, so I was looking into it. It was this click event that's happening in a weird place, but it's a bit odd. No, the actual thing here is one. There's an event. Yeah, the event is happening during a frame, but that's so little that's happening.
No, but normally those click events would sort of be queued up until the end, until like the request animation frame is done, and then the event queue is just emptied piece by piece, and then all those event handlers should run.
Yeah, I just noticed, but it's not. It's just a weird coincidence that I was looking at that specific. Never mind.
Would be
I
something
was
like every click or every key press just interrupts a frame and boom, gone. No.
in your game. Are you running the updates or um, so you were spawning in enemies? I assume
Yeah.
that go start walking along a path or something. It do you do that? Do you calculate if it needs to spawn every frame, or do you have something like a specific site process that updates every frame, but has a specific um, loop where it runs on?
No,
That
so
was
that
really
that, that actually that can the logic to update enemies happens each frame. the range of enemies that needs to be updated, it works slightly differently. So while I do summon the visual representation of the enemy based on the time, actually the layout of the round is deterministic up to the way that for a given timestamp within a round, I know the positions of all the enemies. So instead of saying, oh, I spawn an enemy and this enemy has its own update loop and it sort of starts moving across the path, it's more like, okay, I'm updating. What is and sort of updating enemies in batch? Sort of what timestamp within the round is it? Which enemies are on the path? So based on the time which are have entered the field and sort of between the portals and the tower. And for those, they will be positions and where necessarily sort of instantiated in like an instance draw call. So even that is pretty lightweight. Um, so that does happen on the main thread just in the traditional update sense, but the cost is very predictable and constant.
Yeah.
So it's not sort of spawning a lot of little entities with their own update cycles. No. It's yeah, pretty straightforward in that sense. But it's sort of the key element is I know exactly which enemies are where at a certain point in time. So it's not moving the enemies; it's in placing the enemies at that exact spot each time.
Yeah, and that's how it can work multiplayer too.
Yeah, because even if there's like a time delay between the because I elect a master and that master sort of keeps sending like a very low tick rate. I believe the tick rate is like 1 second. Um, but yeah, the time can just advance as normal, and every player knows exactly which enemies are where. Um, that does mean that there can be, in some corner cases, some delay between killing an enemy and stuff. But the thing is, because the combat is so hands-on and close by, any kill performed by a player is just done in good faith, where the player says, "Well, I killed this entity," and it's just more an announcement than a actually coordinated, synchronized, authoritative request. It's just saying, "I killed this enemy." So on the player's end, they can just perform the animation to kill the enemy without having to wait for confirmation. So in a way, it's more three people playing a single player game with occasional updates from one of the three considered the master.
Yeah.
And suddenly there was silence.
Yes.
Dum dum dum.
For a moment, I thought everybody left.
I'm after a long day, but I still have some stuff to do. Updating my game. I I don't like I didn't receive the impressions that I was hoped to with my game.
Yes. I know the feeling.
Yeah, cause like I was in an event. I was doing with the game in two events, two conferences. One was like a geeks conference for the whole family, like kids and mothers and anything else for geeks, like like anime convention and sci-fi and fantasy, everything all together. And people played the game and they loved it, but they enter the game with their phones and play it in their phones. Uh, but days later, they didn't return to the game, and I've been to a game developers conference, and the feedback that I got there is that I must replace all the graphics in the game, even the things that I was thinking that they were like the right thing. So I wonder if at this stage does replacing the graphics would actually help the game, or the game in itself is lost cause and like keep on the next game. I'm not sure.
That's difficult. I always feel like if the gameplay is solid, the graphics don't matter, which holds true to some extent. But then at the same time,
I'm back.
sometimes the most simple or even boring gameplay add on the right like cues visually, sound effects, and boom, it's like engaging. And then sort
Yeah.
of I waver in my commitment of the idea that gameplay trumps visuals. But
It's like maybe the aesthetics, like a game can be like a child drawing, but if the aesthetics are all connected together, it can work. Maybe my game is just like a mishmash of uh, not coherent visuals, and it affects it well. Like you need a hook. In the end, you need a hook. Like if you have a screenshot of the game or a few seconds of playing of the game, like a hook. Someone, yeah, and I'm not sure if I have that.
yeah, tricky.
Yes, and then you think you have it, and people that have tested your game tell you they like it and have played it a lot, and then you get it out there, and then all of a sudden people don't play it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Mm, it's tough. There are also like games that I played when they were like in alpha or in beta, but once they were released, I stopped playing, and it's something that happens. Like the people that play your game in the alpha and in the beta, most of them won't keep playing after that. But uh, you will have other players, and in my case it's not even alpha, and I can't find like people who actually hook to the game, so I can't find and see like is this game actually have an audience.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with games.
Yeah, there's no science behind. Well, there is probably some science behind it, but
Well,
but like that's the
mostly
thing. Like
money, I
sometimes,
guess.
well, it's always a game of chance, opportunity. It also factors in. But even when I look at my own behavior when playing or trying out games, it's like there's no clear rhyme or reason sometimes behind suddenly stopping playing a game or being intrigued by a trailer or screenshot. It's like, um, yeah.
I tried now, like before I had like a button for a new random maze. It's the maze game, okay? I have a daily maze, and and you need to make the fastest time, and once you finish the maze, you see like the daily average time. And before now, you can, after you play the daily maze, you could generate new mazes just to practice. Now I'm trying, I removed the button, and I want to see maybe the trigger, the fact that now you can only play actually only the daily level. Maybe it will make people return to the maze a day after. I hope.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
that's the
yeah, because it sort of got me thinking about like Wordle or all those other sort of similar
Yeah,
puzzle things where like one of the key drawing elements that draw me in are of course like you get one shot at it each day. It doesn't
yeah.
take a lot of time, but indeed there's a key element sort of that I'll if you don't perform that well, or like I'll get it tomorrow, or I'll try it again. Whereas if you then immediately jump into like an endless array of generated levels, then I think it could indeed detract from the challenge, the perceived challenge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah, I think another thing about those like daily games is that it becomes like a kind of ritual for people. Like I know I always open up like the New York Times games like in the morning,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like taking the dog
I'm
out.
in the LinkedIn one. Like there's Tango on LinkedIn, and I'm
Mm.
playing it every day. Mm,
Yeah, it's just like
yeah,
streaks also are like a powerful like I guess
Yeah.
psychological hook for these kind of things too. It's like, oh, you gotta log in to keep your streak up.
yeah, yeah. I want to add it later, but I hope that even without all those like metas, game meta,
Yeah, you still want to have like a
I hope
fun
the
core thing
core
there.
one, yeah, because the other are only like sugar coating and not
Hmm.
the actual.
Yeah,
Well,
it helps make a sticky game stickier.
mhm. Should I let? Because currently, I once you finish the game, you can refresh the page and play the maze again, but your time won't be saved. Like it's only saving the first score. Uh, later I will disable the option to play again the same level the same day, but for now I think I'll try only this change.
Personally, I would think try to get the one a day in early and sort of if someone reloads, really tell them just you've already completed today's maze. Give a
Eh,
countdown. But to what you could do is have like a set of 10 fixed seeds for some puzzles that you can try, number them, have them outside of the daily ones. So if someone discovers your game, plays through the maze, sees, oh, I did so good, oh, in like 12 hours. Oh, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow there will be a new one. Okay. And then want to practice. And then you have like 10 buttons or whatever amount of sort of training levels that people can do. So then the first time they interact with your game, they can sort of, well, 1 plus 10, do 11 of these puzzles, get the hang of it. But like sort of not detract from the real deal that is you get one shot a day. Because I think it really diminishes if you can just reload and try again. Well, I mean, a maze is sort of between a puzzle and gameplay, I would say. Because some
mhm.
puzzles feel more puzzly than others. And I think the more puzzly it is, the less interesting it is. Wordle is no fun if you can reload and do the same puzzle again.
Yeah,
That's like there's no. Well, it is fun for one time. Look, I know the word on the first try. Whereas with a maze, there is of course like a bit of memory if you want to improve your time. But since it doesn't register your time after the first one, it's sort of a bit moot. Why would you do it? So I would really try to lean in that mechanic where you give people one shot, and then as soon as they reload or visit it again, clearly show them, oh, you've already completed, this was your time, and then a countdown or something. But give them an option to try a couple one, but don't give them the unbounded option of try a random one, which goes on infinitely, but give them a
but
finite amount. That's what I would say. I think that could work.
is there any use in practicing running through a maze? Except for maybe trying out the controllers or something if you if you play for the first time and you want to learn
yeah.
how the controls work, But is there any use in practicing how to run through a maze if it's a random maze tomorrow?
The like before how the mazes works in my game is that you draw the path. So the time starts when you start to draw the path.
Mhm.
So before you draw the path, you can look around and memorize the path, the correct path, and then you need to try and draw the path as fast as you can. And it's a valid strategy. You know, there are people that need to draw to actually see where they are going, and there are people with better memory for stuff like that, and they can memorize the entire path and just draw it in one stroke.
Yeah, so
Um,
there's definitely a skill element you can practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I let them do it. Like you don't have to draw the path before looking on the entire map. You can see the entire map beforehand.
Yeah, it's like with Rubik's cubes and stuff, where they before they complete it in 2 seconds, they can look at it for a couple of moments, and then they solve the cube.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Watching those people, it's always like, whoa.
Yes,
So I
I've been looking at mine for 45 years and I still haven't solved it.
I need the like there's a manual on how to solve from each position, and
Yeah.
I'm always looking at it.
I don't want to.
Um, I love the concept of like Rubik Cube style games in mixed reality, where you can hold the cube or the sphere or whatever in your hands and change the size and play it with your hands. Um, so I have other ideas for the next games that will be like with the same concept, like with the same wrapper, but with different core mechanics. So even if this game will fail, I'll have like the structure of the database and the web and all the interactions. So at least at least the other games won't take such a long time as this one.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I gotta hop off, everyone, but we are over 2 hours now, anyways, I think.
Yeah, it's after midnight here, so yeah. Good night.
Good night.
And thank you.
Yep. Always good to see you. Always good to see everyone else here too.
Yes, have a great rest of your day if or tomorrow.
Good night.
Right.
Yeah.
See you guys.
See you.
Bye bye everyone.
Ciao.